This is the Y'all Show. Time now for Preshias Harris to come on and talk about what's going on in Music City, USA. Hello there, y'all. I am John Rawl, and this is Talk with a Southern Accent, and you're watching a little video of Lady Antebellum. Oh my gosh, I said it. I said it. I said the LA word. And they changed their name the other day to Lady A, and then they kind of got their foot slapped and their hand slapped after doing that. I'm going to talk to Preshias Harris about what's going on in Nashville, USA, as this is the show that we cover entertainment big time. This is Y'all, and let's go find Our Lady on Music Row and try to make sense of Lady A and everything else going on in the country music business and the entertainment business. Hello, Preshias Harris.
Hello. And it's been a roller coaster in Music City this week in the industry.
I would
So,
I would think
it's
so.
always happens before a holiday, I guess.
When
I'm
you got
calling Father's Day holiday,
Precious, when
but
you got people changing their name because of social justice warriors, we don't have that all the time happen in country music.
well, actually, now before the careers get started, like Jason Aldean's name was changed. I've changed every one of my kids' name if it's not too late by the time they get started. Biggest thing is for safety stuff. But what happened is a journalist, and I'm pretty sure it's one of my good friends, had actually called them Lady A years ago. And so they, even though their album says Lady Antebellum and their signs say it and things like that, 99% of the media call them Lady A. Because not because maybe Tennessee people or something can't spell antebellum, but
That
they did go ahead and just do it because everybody already knew them as that, but they didn't really check out a lot of things, and they found out there is a band, pre-existing band that uses Lady A. And because they're officially Lady Antebellum, that this band really never pressed charges. Then one of the members had a little bit of a tiff on social media, and I'm assuming because here in Music City we're a very peaceful bunch, and there's enough room in this big old globe for everybody to have music and things like that. Um, so I think Lady A's people reached out to Lady A's people, and they've come together in a video with a commentator, Tom Rowland, who's one of the journalists of Billboard, and he and I've been friends forever. And so it looks like they got everything straightened out. So all is good, which is wonderful because right now, a little good news, as Anne Murray says, is wonderful.
we're showing some video, Precious. They were on the Grand Ole Opry. Hillary Scott of Lady Antebellum. You call them Lady Antebellum, I call them Lady A, vice versa, whatever the case. They were on the Opry, and to my knowledge, I don't remember them even bringing this up Saturday night about this name change.
It was enough. Everybody else did it for them, so they probably didn't. Plus, you have to realize that the audience at the Opry, they really don't care about the political side or this or that. All they want to hear is music. Because my dad's 82 and he listens to the Grand Ole Opry every time it's on. So they care more about really good music. So I can see why they didn't address the subject and just was all about the music with them, which is a good thing.
And if,
I was on tour with them. They were on the CMT, I think it's 2010, 2011. And Jason had picked my client at the time to be the opener. They were really good friends. He wrote the song 8 Second Ride for Jake Owen. And but he was the opener. His name was Eric Durance. And then you had the new kids on the block from you know uh, Capitol Records, Lady A, which is Lady Antebellum. And it was so much press going on. I think the press got tired of spelling, so they just said Lady A. And then Jason Aldean was a headliner. And it was very interesting trying to coordinate a trio, a full band with Jason, and then our baby opening acts, and trying to do the radio meet and greets and things like that. Very interesting, but you really get to know the business back then. And back then was when they really started. People started saying, "Oh, Lady A" instead of Lady Antebellum. It's just so much easier to say, like A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So anyway, but it's good. I'm glad it turned out really well. Very, very happy that it wasn't any more freaky frocks going on than what had happened. But once again, they felt closer to the heart was a passionate thing, and I can understand that. And they made I don't want to say they made the decision in haste because everybody's called them Lady A for 10 years. So it's really not their fault. But I'm glad that Billboard had reached out to the person that, and I guess hooked the teams up together to try to work it out for the better, which is, music is music and we want to keep it going with all the good vibes that we can. Unlike this past weekend, which is all I'm going to say about it, was several citations downtown, and Mr. Kid Rock was at the forefront. No social distancing, no masks, things like that. So that's all I'm going to say about that. You can read about it on the Tennessean or the news channel in Nashville, but I will be glad when things are semi back to normal. That's all I want to say. My
Precious,
kids get
you
playing music.
you need to get a job in politics. You completely dodged what I was really setting you up for on Lady Antebellum. They would never have changed their name in the last week if not for trying to be social justice warriors. That's what this was all about. They decided the word
Yes.
antebellum, oh gosh, it harkens back to the pre-Civil War days. Now, you'd think they'd know that when they formed the band, if that was really going to bother them. And
Well,
Lady A is a great nickname. Yeah, you're right. A lot of people call them Lady A, but the name of the band is Lady Antebellum, and they just tried to jump on this current Black Lives Matter movement to try to put a spin on something that I don't think too many people were criticizing them for.
well, I think everybody's got to do what they're what they. That's the thing about America. We're red, white, and blue, and all the colors too, and we get to do and make choices. But honestly, I have not seen them call Lady A in media, and I'm not really dodging the question. But everybody does things that they feel like that they need to do for the different things that they believe in.
Mm-hmm.
Like one of the things when the kids walk in my office, two rules: you can't do drugs, and you got to love Jesus.
Man, I don't know
And
if I'm
I
coming
don't
back to
mean
your
that as a
office
joke,
now.
but you really, yeah, you know, all religions welcome. Just you got to know about who he is. And anyway, one kid walked in one day and I said, okay, here's the rules. And I should have had another rule. You can't date in the office, but that came later.
Hmm.
But anyway, um, he goes, I'll fit in just fine. So, but everybody has the different opinions and stuff. That's a good thing about it. But Lady A has always tried to do things that they've been passionate about, everything from their music to going from different, from label to label. And, they've always been quite the new when it left, when they were being pushed about asking about leaving the label and moving over to the new label. They were very cordial about leaving the label, that they went as far as they could, and they were glad for the opportunity they gave them. But onward and upward with a new record and album coming out, things like that. So, I just want, honestly, I just want COVID to go away, but it's not going to go away for a while, at least a year.
You bring
But
that up.
hopefully
What
we can
you,
get music back.
you bring that up? You mentioned Kid Rock getting a couple citations. Have you heard any updates on country music singers who, unlike or unfortunately Joe Diffie, we lost him to coronavirus? Any other artists or anybody in the music business we need to be aware of who's fighting this disease?
No, and when I'm like I said, my office is run on Music Row, and everybody that I see, from walking their dog to some of the people there on Music Row, are wearing their mask. You have to realize Kid Rock is the age group and that they have. And matter of fact, I have a client that was a very close a client of mine that has a very close friend that comes to the office to write, was actually playing in the band when it happened. Um, but it, I'm not going to say anything negative about it. I can understand why they see this and see that, but the most important thing is that we do not want to go back to where we were shut down for 8 weeks. And Tennessee, where all the others are going down and slowing down, Tennessee is just up. We had 700 new cases in less than 24 hours. So that's the only thing I worry about. Our death rate is rising and our cases are rising. And, and I know people are tired, but people are outdoor. Tennessee's a beautiful place in June. The weather's been incredible, and I can understand why people want it to be over, but we still got to practice safe, until we can get a shot that can either slow it down to be like a flu shot or immunization for it. We've just got to do everything we can to slow it down and not let it impact our lives the way it's been impacting our lives.
Precious, Tennessee, I second that emotion. It is a beautiful place, and a lot of beautiful people live in the volunteer state. One of those citizens who came to the volunteer state, I think she's a native of California, Heidi Newfield. You might remember her from Trick Pony. Precious, what's going on with Heidi?
Well, I knew that she's had an album in the works for a while. I actually saw her out at an event and she snuck one in my hand to listen to it, and I fell completely in love. I knew it was going to be a great album, but I couldn't really publicize or do anything with it. I could just listen to it. So I can't wait to do a review and get it out there and support her. She and I became friends like in the early '90s. There's a place called Sammy B's, which I think you and I attended, and she used to park cars, and I would. When I got to go to lunch, like Merle Kilgore, and he always paid for my lunch, I always kept my extra money and gave her money to pull my car up front. This is before my knee replacement. So I was like, anything I didn't have to walk very far, I loved it. But anyway, but she used to park my car, and I remember saving $4 or $5 to make sure I got to pay her for doing that. And she didn't find out until about 5, 6 years ago. We're backstage at the Opry. My sister and I celebrating our kidney transplant, and my sister loves Johnny and Jake, and she just had to meet Heidi. So I went ahead and I introduced her to Heidi, and we got to talk, and she had no idea that I even had, all the health issues I've had and everything. And she said, I do remember one thing. She said, you would tip me money when I know that you were having a hard time. And the bigger executives, maybe $1 or $2, and knowing that they were making, 80, 100,000 a year. But it's good because she remembers what I did to make sure she had tip money. So it goes to show you never know who's parking your car or who's going to be. Keith Anderson was waiting on the tables, and you just never know. Kathy Mattea waited on us at TGI Fridays before my kidney transplant when she was working in here in the 80s. She used to put her hair up in a ponytail with a 45 around it. So you just never know who your waiter's going to be, who's pumping your gas. As a matter of fact, one of my clients has got a song out for Father's Day. And I met her 4 years ago. She was parking my car at the cancer doctor. And I had already given my money for the newspaper, for the homeless newspaper at the end of the road. I said, oh, I don't have any tip money. He goes, nobody tips. I said, but I tip. He goes, no, really, nobody tips us. But I said, you got a songwriter who needs help? And he introduced me to Courtney, and she's got the current single out as a songwriter with Dallas Remington called Uncommon Man that was written in my writer's room.
All right.
I'm so excited.
That is great news. And we're going to talk more about Precious, what you do with singers and songwriters in a second, as we're visiting with our insider on Music Row, Preshias Harris, on the Y'all Show. Hit us up if you got a question for Precious. Our number, 803-816-1170. You can text or call that number, or if you're catching our YouTube stream or Facebook Live, questions are welcome here. If you've got a question about an artist or you want to learn more about how you can get into the music business, Precious is available to answer that. We'll fire it away right here if you have a question. Precious, you just mentioned two things that sadly we're going to switch over here and get your thoughts or what you know about this. You mentioned Merle Kilgore, and this weekend we have Father's Day. Merle Kilgore, for many, many years, was Hank Williams Jr.'s manager. And this past weekend, Hank Williams Jr., his youngest daughter, Catherine, she was killed in a wreck in Henry County that's near Paris, Tennessee, as she was killed driving this car, pulling a boat behind her car there near Paris, Tennessee. Her husband was in the Tahoe. He was seriously injured. We hope he's going to come out of this fine. Now, Catherine and her husband leave behind 2 young children. But what a sad weekend this past weekend for the entire Williams family and for Catherine, again, the 27-year-old daughter of Hank Williams Jr. Your thoughts on what happened there in West Tennessee?
Yeah, I got notification in a private message about that through a friend of mine who was super close to the family, and that family has had their ups and downs and back and forth for sure. But like I said, Merle was always so good to me, and and he's the one that was the brainchild behind getting Hank back from the accident on Wolverton Mountain. And from the mountain he fell. He was Montana. He fell on the mountain. fell down the mountain, and helped him get back on his feet and get back to where he was. So, you know, so I'm hoping the Williams family can pick up once again and get through this. It's never getting easy because she was young. I mean, her kids are very young. I think they're under the age of 10, if I remember right.
Yeah.
So, my heart goes out to that family too. So I'm with you, dear.
Catherine Williams Dunning, sadly passing away at the age of 27. And her sister, Holly, who's older than her, put out on social media an image taken Thursday of last week where Hank Williams Jr. and several of his family members all went to the funeral of his aunt. So it would have been Catherine's great aunt just passed away, and they had a funeral. And just an assumption here, I assume this would be on his mother's, Hank Williams Jr.'s mother's side. She must have had a sibling or perhaps an in-law that just passed away, likely in Alabama. I don't know all those details, but they had a photo of the family all taken together on Thursday, and within 48 hours, Catherine had died in a car wreck. Sad, sad
Yeah, they
times.
say it comes in threes. That's what Kentucky folklore, but I've seen it happen.
Mm.
It did with Kenny Rogers and Joe Diffie and John Prine, and of course there was a couple extra ones with Miss Jan Howard in there. But yeah, I just keep them. It's especially when you're getting back to back slammed with with funerals and things, and the social distancing at funerals is very hard. So definitely my prayers for the family.
Moving along, Trisha Yearwood and Garth Brooks, they have some things, Precious, I know you want to share with us here on our Nashville Music Line report with Miss Preshias Harris.
They are doing a drive-in concert,
All right.
and it's going to be on the actual drive-in screen. What the way they're doing the concert. So not only do you see them perform on stage, you see it on the big screen, just like it's the movies. I think they've got 500 dates scheduled. I didn't know there was that many drive-in theaters around the country, but
They're putting them up left and right
are.
now because people realize that's something they can actually do post coronavirus. They've always been a cool option. Now
Oh,
they
I
might
know.
be the only option to go see a movie.
Yeah, my grandmother had one. I could literally look out the window and see just the sliver of the side of the movie screen. But it was like a block and a half away in the
Yeah.
country, which was forever when you're trying to go through the woods to look at the movie screen.
Yeah.
So, but I remember going to my first drive-in movie in Louisville. And of course, it was very common. I wish they still had it because it was such a wonderful landmark. Because
Yeah.
they were showing movies up to the late, mid 80s there,
Mm-hmm.
until they ended up they sold the land. So anyway, but yeah, I do love a good drive-in.
And Alan Jackson has kind of launched also a drive-in tour. I think he just had one in Coleman, Alabama, which oddly enough, that is the maternal home of Hank Williams Jr. His mother was from Coleman, Alabama, and heck, he was probably in Coleman on Thursday when maybe Alan Jackson had that concert there in North Alabama. So yeah, drive-in theaters, and we got to give Keith Urban a lot of the credit for kind of kicking off this whole concept of having a drive-in theater be a possible option for putting on a country music concert, because just a few weeks ago he did that as a benefit outside of Lebanon, Tennessee, there in Watertown, as a kind of great way to thank the healthcare workers involved with the coronavirus at Vanderbilt Hospital. Now, Precious, people come to Nashville every day. They want to be singer-songwriters, and we have some things we want to ask you about when it comes to songwriting and have you elaborate if you don't mind. So, as part of your job there on Music Row, you help those who have the bright lights in their head and they want to transfer that thought into reality. And someone like Precious, through her music career development consulting business, she's able to walk people through all the steps. And I know you kind of help people both from a songwriting standpoint, but specifically a copyright standpoint. That's so important. Also, licensing and performing rights, and all of that goes into the music publishing. So, what is the layman's term to kind of just show how people can come find you, NashvilleMusicLine.com, and learn how they can hire you essentially to help them with their goals of making it in the music biz?
Well, the biggest thing is as I help them understand the way a songwriter would move in town, how to network. how to present yourself. Don't have your CD in hand; you'll get kicked out. Just little things like that. I've got etiquette rules that I teach. I do everything from presenting it in a very layman's term, as you would say. For instance, if you created a song, okay, that's like having a child. So equal to a birth certificate. If you have a child, the first thing you do to prove that child was your creation is you get a birth certificate. Same thing with the song. A copyright is the exact equal to a birth certificate for a human. A copyright is the birth certificate for your creative, for your music that you've created. And today I had a meeting with someone who I moved here. I've gave up everything in my home in Arkansas. I don't know what to do. And it's so funny is that I knew what she's going to need to do for the next 3 years. And when I made the list, I said, I'm not going to overwhelm you. But I said, here's the 67 things you're going to be doing in the next year. But every day, I want you to do something for your career. And we started a hook book. And a hook book is a place that you write down like song ideas. Like somebody wrote down a hook called Sleeping Single in a Double Bed. Of course, Barbara Mandrell made that song very famous. But just little things like that you write down, you can come back and share it with someone. And if you do one hook 300 days a year, you've got 300 song possibilities without even writing one word down, but nothing but the title.
All right, if you've got a question.
Just little things like that to make it work.
If you've got a question for Precious about any of this, if you want to perhaps talk to her about having her help you in your goals, or maybe somebody else that has that goal, Precious at NashvilleMusicLine.com is the email address. And if you don't know how to spell Precious, it's right there on the video screen. Precious, Preshis, Precious at NashvilleMusicLine.com is the email address. Learn all about, again, what she does to help out folks on Music Row. Also, she is the author of The College of Songology. And you can see the book cover right behind you there. And you can go to iknowcountry.com and learn more about all the books and great trivia books available from Preshias Harris, our insider on Music Row in Nashville, Tennessee. Let's ask a trivia question, Precious. You ready for that?
I'm ready.
All right, here it goes. Can you name the country group that had formed in Canada under the name 12 Gauge before changing their name and moving to Nashville, where they scored their first #1 in the year 2007. Oh, another band changing their name. Where did that come from? Actually, that's happened a lot in the world of
Lone
the music.
Star is one.
Wild Country was a really good band, and I don't know why they changed their name to something called, I think, Alabama.
Yes, and as a matter of fact, Alabama has a connection to our trivia question.
All right, well, let's answer the trivia question. Again, the question is, can you name the country group that formed in Canada, and under the name 12 Gauge before heading across that border, and they came to Nashville where they scored their first #1 in the year 2007. Precious, help us out.
Emerson Drive.
Emerson Drive. How about that? I didn't realize they were from Canada.
Yes, and they actually, I have, next time you're in my office, if you'll look, there's a #1 plaque that Teddy gave me, Alabama's bass player, produced that single with Josh Leo for them, Moments. And Teddy actually gave me that plaque when I worked for him. So it's hanging very proudly in my office beside my Lori Morgan plaque and my John Anderson plaque.
That is
RIA sales of 500,000 when I was interning.
Moments was Emerson Drive's #1, and again, it was #1 right now, 13 years ago, June 16th, 2007 is when that was a chart topper for those wild and crazy Canadians. Preshias Harris. We're wrapping up our conversation with Precious here on today's Y'all Show, talking country music and oh so much more with Miss Harris. And as we move on in our discussion, Precious, I know you've got some Matt Stell info. I think he's the New Englander who's come into country music and done a great job with some songs. What's going on with Mr. Stell?
Well, Mr. Stell is a guest on Heidi Newfield's new record.
Oh.
But, yes, and he just had a #1 right before COVID actually hit, honestly, not too long before that, called I Prayed For You. And we got to go to the #1 party for that. He's like 6'6". He's very tall. I didn't think he was going to be that tall, but he was really tall. But and he plays in the in the video, he plays the bartender, he plays the patron, he plays all the parts, and it's really, really funny to see. I'm gonna send you a link so you can keep it if you want to share it on your site, because it's a really, really cool video and very genius to do it for what he did.
And I remember looking this up at one time. It's amazing what Mr. Google can do. If I'm not mistaken, Precious, doesn't Matt Stell have some kind of Ivy League background?
Yes, he was at college, and with really making really good grades, and he just the music bug just kept eating at him,
Okay.
and so he thought, I'll come down here, I'll give it a bit, and if it doesn't work, I can always go back. And it worked. He got really lucky and hooked up with an artist that you remember back in the late '90s, named Ash Bowers. And Ash owned a publishing company and development company for songwriters and things like that. And he got with Ash, and Ash had put him together with some of his writers and things like that, because Ash is very well connected. And they wrote the song "I Prayed for You." So he was actually a co-writer on his first #1, which is pretty cool.
How about that?
But that's how he got in. He just gave up the 4.0 lifestyle and the Ivy League. Came down here in the warmer weather and music. But he said in the interview, when I asked him, a lot of people that was just, have a hard time in college and aren't that smart. I'm one of them. So I was really, I can't do math. I can do every other thing. I can do the publishing splits in my brain, but I can't balance my checkbook. It's so crazy. Anyway, but he said the music was just eating at him so much just to come to Nashville. He said I had to do it. He said it just got overwhelming. So do it or die, basically.
All right, here. Let me clarify. I had to look this up. First of all, Matt Stell, apologies. You're part of us. You're an Arkansan, so my apologies for calling you a darn Yankee. He was born in Clinton, Arkansas, and I think that was named Clinton before a guy named Bill became president. Raised in Center Ridge, Arkansas, and he played basketball. You mentioned he was a tall feller. Yeah, he played basketball. He played college basketball for Drury University. I am not familiar with that school. It originally called Springfield College, and that is a United Church of Christ Christian church, and that is located in Springfield, Missouri, home of Bass Pro Shops. So he was a Drury Panther in college, and here's that Ivy League connection. I knew there was something in his background.
Yes.
He applied to Harvard University's Extension School as a part-time pre-med program and was accepted. And shortly before the program was to start, he decided to sign a publishing deal. Why would he do that? It worked out for Matt Stell. And again, he's out of Arkansas, 36 years young, Matthew Neil Stell. And he's got a big and bright future going on in country music. Is it as big and bright as The Gambler? Precious, it was on this day back in the 1970s, a guy named Kenny Rogers. Wow, what a day. He recorded The Gambler there on Music Row, then went to lunch, and then came back and recorded a little duet with Dottie West. What more can you tell us about that?
Well, you have magic days. I was talking with my business partner before that, and I mean, there's things like that happen. We talked about Elvis last week, but I remember sometimes things just happen on Music Row very magically. And I remember going a little bit too fast on Music Row around a corner. As I come around the corner, I looked, and just for a split second, I thought, those are the starchiest jeans I've ever seen. And the jeans, when I looked, I realized who it was, but I forgot his name. But his manager, which I know who's my friend, all I could say was, "Hi, Irv," but I couldn't think of George Strait's name to save my life.
Precious, we're taking your credentials away. Come on now.
I swear, and I'm pretty sure it was when he was recording "I Saw God Today," because it was about 6-8 months later, "I Saw God" came out. So he was standing on the grass of the studio where he was recording. So I'm pretty sure that's what he was doing there, just the timeline. But, sometimes magic happens in the studio. And, of course, I love Miss Dottie. I mean, I knew her son and I became actually really good friends when I was at Belmont. And she had already passed away, passed away long. She was actually on her way to the Opry to perform and was in a car wreck, not even a mile from the Opry House when it happened. But we're hoping that we've got I heard that they're doing another exhibit and trying to get some more memorabilia from around the country, some fans that, have gotten it to post in the Hall of Fame. So that's a good thing. So I'm hoping so, Miss Dottie.
Yeah. a crazy story about Dottie West, and you mentioned her being killed in a car wreck, like we were mentioning Hank Williams Jr.'s daughter, unfortunately killed over this past weekend. And I kid you not, it was about 7 months ago. A close friend of mine, he and I were both right there at the old Opryland theme park off of Briley Parkway, and since I worked there in the 90s, I tried to show how much I know about what happened in Nashville. I said, this curve right here, this awful curve, that's where Dottie West had a fatal car wreck. She was riding, I think, in a limo, and it had an awful, and you can see why. It's a dramatic curve, and that darn curve's still there. It's extremely sharp right there by the Grand Ole Opry House. And so I pointed that out to my buddy. 2 days later, we go back to his town. He lives in Cleveland, Tennessee, near Chattanooga, and he has a new employee. And within 1 minute of meeting this employee, guess what she tells me? She's from McMinnville, Tennessee, and she said, "Yeah, Dottie West was my cousin." And, and I said, "Yeah, how weird is that? Out of nowhere, someone tells me that they're Dottie West's cousin when I was just telling her boss about how Dottie got killed." So that was a kind of a crazy connection. But Dottie West and Kenny Rogers collaborated on This Week in 1978 after Kenny recorded The Gambler at Cowboy Jack Clement's studio in Nashville on Music Row. He goes to lunch. I don't know if he went to a Kenny Rogers Roasters, but came back, and he and Dottie West recorded All I Ever Need Is You, maybe their biggest duet. And what a tremendous day at the office. 2 hits all in one day for The Gambler.
Oh yes, and another famous person. She was actually born in Tennessee, down the road a little bit, but she lived in McMinnville for
No, 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 no,
a
no, no,
good
no.
part of her life.
Do you know who Bill Hall is or was?
Oh yeah, Weatherman, the
Yeah.
best one in the whole world.
Snowbird. Whatever.
Yeah.
If you ever listen to or watch WSMV Channel 4, I'm an alumnus of that television station, NBC affiliate in Nashville. Bill Hall, the
I love.
weatherman, when I
My
moved to,
grandmother thought he was the bomb.
he was a great guy. But Bill Hall is the reason I learned how to pronounce that town between Murfreesboro and Chattanooga. It's not McMinnville, it's MacMinnville. Come on, Precious.
McMinnville.
You got to
And Donna
learn.
Shore lived there.
Yeah, I know, but that is MacMinnville. However, a really neat area of Middle Tennessee for sure. And Dottie West was from that area. And hey, we talk about, you mentioned earlier, of course, she had her daughter Shelley, who had a couple of great songs like Jose Cuervo and more, and the duet with Lefty Frizzell's brother David Frizzell. It's Father's Day this weekend, Precious. I know you mentioned a little bit earlier about some of your artists working on some Father's Day stuff. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, Father's Day. Tim McGraw had a song out for Mother's Day, and but there's always several been big songs for Father's Day, like Reuben McIntyre, "The Greatest Man I Ever Knew," and "That's My Job," Conway. But it's so funny that I have 2 clients literally having songs coming out less than 2 weeks from each other. And one was written in the office called "Uncommon Man." And I was telling you about that one. And it's just wonderfully written song. And it's actually for, it was dedicated to the fathers, because both of the girls, they're very much daddy's girl. Matter of fact, one of the writers is up in New York right now on the dairy farm helping her dad get everything back on track. The other artist is a kid that just got a deal with Broken Bow. And he's still my kid, even though he's always been my music kid, because I was his first music mom in town. And he's got to deal with Broken Bow. His name's Elby Shane. And he's got a song called "My Boy." And before they sent it to radio, when he sang it at my birthday party last year, then he sang it a couple of weeks later at the club. And I think they had like 75,000 views in a matter of 3 days on Facebook. So check it out. Elby Shane Payton, called "My Boy." And it's about someone raising a child that just like he was his own, even though it's not his blood, But it's just a wonderful written song, and you just got to hear it. I mean, I've seen about 200 or 300 comments is all I could read. The day before yesterday, I was reading some of the comments on YouTube and the social media stuff just about how the song hit home. Because there are a lot of stepfathers, and people coming in that's got kids and marrying people that has kids and things like that. And this is just a wonderful song that anybody who is raising someone else's child,
Mm-hmm.
it's just a really, really great song. I can't say more. As soon as you hear it, I'm just going to say, you'll say, Precious, yours right. That's all you're going to say.
All right, this next singer-songwriter has nothing to do with Father's Day, but we want to say happy birthday. And I heard this announcement that this singer was having a birthday this week, and I'm like, and I hate to do this, Precious. We all do it. You have to ask the question, is he alive? I don't remember him dying. He's very much alive. Happy 81st birthday this week to Mr. Rub It In. Billy Crash Craddock out of Greensboro, North Carolina, with a birthday this week. Thursday, this guy also very much alive. BS. I don't mean it. I mean it. It is BS. Blake Shelton with a big birthday. And then, Precious, to wrap it all up from a birthday standpoint, this weekend, I think he is the only country music star to ever come out of our first state. Do you know what our first state is, Miss Precious?
Probably Massachusetts or Maryland.
Nope.
It's got to be on the East Coast.
You're
because
right.
Of the
It's on the East Coast. It's Delaware.
Delaware.
And there's only
And
been...
why didn't they get a bigger chunk than that little bitty thing?
That's all they needed, I guess. Delaware. Because they
If
don't...
I was first in line, I would have said, I'm taking half of Maryland, okay?
Yeah. Well, there's a chance that Delaware might be having their first president elected in November because a guy named Joe Biden is from Delaware. But I'm going to say this next person is even more famous than Joe Biden, and that's Chuck Wicks. Chuck Wicks, the Delaware native, he's got a birthday here this week. It's Chuck, born in 1979, so happy 41st birthday, who, again, was a singer, and then he was on Nashville. And then for a while, he was dating, what's the singer and dancer?
Jason Aldean's sister.
Okay, but he also
married.
dated Julianne Hough. I think they were an item.
Julianne Hough, yeah. And when he first came to town, yeah. But he's actually married, I think it was last fall maybe, he married Jason's sister.
Okay.
Jason Aldean's sister, so.
Chuck Wicks.
Yeah, but he's actually really great. He's a wonderful air personality.
Okay. Well, yeah, he's on
really
a
good.
Is he on a syndicated program? I've heard him.
He was. It's no longer here, but he's actually interviewed 3 of my clients on the radio, and he's done a really good job. Very personable, very just what you see, because he looks sweet and he looks very kind, and he really is.
Delaware, the hotbed of country music stardom for sure. I think he was on with Terry Clark. They were on the Nash FM, Nash syndicated deal. Does that sound right?
Yeah, it wasn't Terry Clark, but it was somebody like that. I
Okay.
can't remember the name.
All right. Well, my apologies, Chuck Wicks. But hey, happy birthday to you there, Delaware native. Precious, anything else you got before we got to get out of here?
I am excited. I got another single that came out last week from one of my clients.
Who?
It's really good. It's called Georgia Time.
Georgia
The unfortunate thing is Riley Green, who's about 20 miles from where my client's from, has a song out called Georgia Time. So I've got Rusty Williams, my client, which wrote the song last year, and they released it within a couple of weeks of each other. They're completely, because it's more of a, like a bad, Rusty's is really powerful, almost like a little bit of a Southern rock undertone, Georgia Time. But Riley's is more of that, like a pop country, you know, like the little grooving thing. So they're completely 2 different songs, 2 different artists, but they're both really good songs. So check out Georgia Time with Rusty Williams and Riley Green's song, Georgia Time. So,
all right. Well,
kudos to Georgia this week.
Georgia's on our mind. And yeah, Rusty is a great singer-songwriter, and you can check that out. And don't forget to check out Precious at NashvilleMusicLine.com and CollegeofSongology.com. And we'll be right back here with another report in the coming days. So if you want to know what's going on in country music, both from an entertainment standpoint, from a big star standpoint, but also some of the nuts and bolts of how to be a singer-songwriter, that's what we do right here on the Y'all Show with our Nashville Music Line report. Precious, great to see you. We'll talk to you again.
All right. Goodbye, everybody.
All right. And thank y'all for being a part of the show that is all about the South. We'll see you, and thank you for keeping it, y'all. The show that's all about the South.